Hey, it's Kyle here, and with this video I'm starting a big project for this channel, maybe the biggest undertaking I've ever done with this channel, honestly, and that is rereading the new Jedi Order series. If you're not familiar with the new Jedi Order series, it's a hugely popular book series that Star Wars did pre-Disney buying Star Wars. You could argue, other than the original Thrawn trilogy, this is probably the series that Star Wars Books is best known for. This was by far their longest running series they ever did. Covered around 20 books, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. This first book, Vector Prime, came out in 1999, and the series took several years to complete. I'm just going back. I haven't read this book since I first read it when it first came out in 1999, which basically means I was either a sophomore or junior when this book came out. I am now in my early 40s, so definitely my life has changed a lot. Read, watched a lot of Star Wars stuff, but kind of going back to the series, when this was coming out, we never thought we were going to get a sequel trilogy. We never thought we were going to get episodes 7, 8, and 9. And so these books were going farther in the Star Wars future, kind of exploring new characters, new storylines, and stuff like that. This series specifically is set 25 years after the event of Star Wars A New Hope. So honestly, a very similar timeline of what we actually do see in the sequel trilogy, very close year-wise to what this series lines up. And so the initial setup, you have your main characters from Star Wars, the original movies that everybody loves: Han, Leia, Luke, Chewie, R2-D2, C-3PO, but you also get some new characters. Luke is married to Mara Jade, who is one of the most popular, if not maybe the most popular character ever introduced in Star Wars books that's not from the original movies. Her and Luke are an amazing pair. Han and Leia have had 3 kids: Jason, Jaina, and Anakin. Jason and Jaina are twins. Anakin is their youngest kid. They're all very powerful in the Force, and they're all being trained to be Jedis by Luke. In fact, at this point, they're basically all Jedi Knight. The New Republic is ruling the galaxy at this point, but there are some political turmoil in it, and clearly the New Republic is not working as well as everybody had hoped, but it's still a step up from the Empire. And into this that basic setup I just gave comes the new Jedi Order series. And basically I think this series is trying to do what is now the big threat that can be posed to the Star Wars galaxy. And specifically, I think this book series was looking at what is it that we can explore that is really the first threat that our heroes have ever faced, that are not either Force users like the Sith or not the Empire. What is a new enemy that we can introduce, and why are they such a threat to the Jedi? Why are they such a threat to the Republic? And why are they a bigger threat in a lot of ways than the Empire or the Sith ever were? And I think, honestly, in some ways, some inspiration for this series is a very similar inspiration that we've seen for a more recent series in Star Wars post-Disney by now, and that is the High Republic series, which instead of going into the future, goes in the past and basically looks a couple hundred years before the movies, and a huge threat that kind of really shapes how the galaxy unfolds, and it kind of in some ways leads to the events that we see in the movies. And I will mention the High Republic series wrapping up is why I decided to actually tackle rereading the new Jedi Order series again. The High Republic series has really been dominating my Star Wars reading the past few years. There's several books a year come out, and when that series wrapping up, at the moment at least, there's not that many Star Wars books announced for this year. So it's like, I always like to read some Star Wars books. Maybe this is a time to go back and reread some stuff. And I initially like, do I want to go ahead and reread the High Republic series? No, I'm not sure about that. I've read the Thrawn trilogy somewhat recently, so it's like, I've already read that somewhat recently. You know what? I've always wanted to go back and reread the new Jedi Order series, but I've always been hesitant to do it because, like I said, it's around 20 books. It's a big undertaking. Honestly, this is probably going to take me like a year or two to read all these books, because I'm not just going to be reading these books. I'm going to be reading other novels, nonfiction books. As new Star Wars books come up, I'll read those as well. So this is not going to be a short undertaking for me. So I was like, with the High Republic series over, I'm going to have some gaps where there'll just be some months where there won't be any Star Wars books coming out. Let's just read this series again and see if I enjoyed it as much as I did when I first read it, because I really loved this series a lot. Now, there were some books in it that weren't the best, but there were some absolutely amazing books. So I hope if you've read this series before, maybe you'll go on this journey with me and read the books as I go along. Feel free to if you have questions about future books, leave in the comment section below. I'll be glad to address those as I get to those book reviews. I think my goal is maybe to do a review for each book in the series, maybe every month or two. It just depends on how quickly I'm able to read them. So, feel free to ask me questions about future books. If you've never read these books before, I'd encourage you to check them out. You can still find them in most bookstores. Like I said, they're a hugely popular series. Of course, you can find them online. I have the original copies, but of course now you're going to get them. It's going to say Legends in the back because it's no longer official Disney Star Wars canon. It's Star Wars Legends. So that intro out of the way, that very long intro, let's get talking about Vector Prime, the first book in the series by R.L. Salvatore. And this book really is an amazing kickoff to the series. A lot of ways that similar in the High Republic series, a lot of Jedi really got that series off to a great start and really hooked you right away. This series very quickly was like, all right, we're going to quickly demonstrate to you what the stakes are, why the Yuuzhan Vong are such a dangerous threat, and why is this different than every other Star Wars story that you've ever read before. If you've never read this book before, this is maybe a good time to stop, read it, and come back and watch, because I will include some plot spoilers in the rest of my review. So overall, how did I enjoy this book on my reread? I enjoyed it a lot. However, I will say one thing I noticed on reading this book again is I don't think I like the writing style and maybe the writing quality as much as I do in more recent books in the High Republic series, which I feel like the Star Wars writing quality has went up a lot in recent years. They're really well done. And there's, not saying this book is badly written, I just don't think it's written at the same quality as the High Republic series. However, I still really enjoy this book a lot for a variety of reasons. Action sequences are amazing. You're really set up to this new threat very well. The Yuuzhan Vong are one of the best villains that have ever been introduced in the Star Wars galaxy, so they're very fascinating to read about. And it's also honestly very interesting to read this book, again, for the first time in basically over 25 years. And when I first read it, it's like, oh, I don't really remember this part, I don't remember this part. But at the halfway point when I was reading, it's like all this stuff just came flood. Like, I remember this part, I remember this scene, I remember this. It's very interesting. So it's very much a trip down Star Wars memory lane for me. But I think this book is something you can enjoy if it's a first time read for you. Like I said, it's in a lot of ways very shocking. I'll go ahead and get the main thing that a lot of Star Wars fans remember about this book out of the way. And this is the big spoiler, so if you don't want anything spoiled, stop watching now and then come back after you read this book. But I think at this point in the Star Wars storytelling process, everybody assumed, the main characters in the books, the main characters in the original Star Wars movies are just untouchable. So, Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, R2-D2, C-3PO, they're just always going to be there. At this point, we've had several books post the movies. These characters are constantly thrown in these incredibly dangerous situations, and they always make it out. They're always fine. We've went through so many stories at this point post movies, and the main movie characters are just always fine when the story wraps up. So at this point, a lot of Star Wars fans they're just never going to touch any of these characters. So in some ways, it lessened your enjoyment, because you knew when Luke or Han or Leia or Chewie or the droids were in any dangerous situation, what they're going to get out. If a character's going to die, it's a book character who's been introduced post-movies. Those are the characters they kill off, not the main movie characters. And I think as a way to kind of demonstrate to Star Wars fans, this series is different, take this threat seriously. I think they decided, we're going to have to kill off a movie character. And what character can they kill off that basically everybody loves, has a 100% approval rating? They killed Chewie. And so the way Chewie dies is so poetic to the storyline. But his death in a lot of ways just demonstrated to people this is such a huge threat. Our main movie characters have never faced a threat like this. Everything's at stake. In every book you're going to read in the series, you're never going to know who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. So, once you see Chewie dying, you're like, well, if they kill Chewie, they could kill R2-D2, they could kill C-3PO, they could kill Han, they could kill Leia, they could kill Luke. All these characters you just assumed would always be safe are now under threat. And it really makes this entire series such high stakes, because you just don't know who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. So getting that big point away, the basic plot of this book is the Yuuzhan Vong are actually a force from outside the Star Wars galaxy. And they basically are beginning the process of invading this galaxy. They've presumably, the way it's implied in this book, they've conquered their own galaxy. They're the masters of that galaxy. And they decided, with their warlike culture, they're destined just to conquer the next galaxy, which is our main Star Wars galaxy. Their culture is very much warrior ethos, that it's the most glorious death is to die in battle. I would say, compare it to our culture, something like the Vikings, where you die in battle. It's the most glorious way you can go. That's how the Yuuzhan Vong are. The Vong are also, all their technology is built around living biological creations. So they hate machines, they hate droids, they basically think droids and machines are like a sacrilege against their religion. Everything needs to be a living creature. So their ships are actually bred. Their weapons, stuff they use for technology are all living creatures that they've bred and biologically engineered to serve their purposes. So everything from like a creature they can put in their ear that will act as a translator, or a creature they can put over their mouth to let them breathe in atmospheres that they normally couldn't. Or like I said, their spaceships are living creatures that they more ride like an animal versus flying a machine. It is very fascinating. And probably because they're outside the galaxy and how they're created, and the rest of the series reveals this in more detail, basically the Jedi are not able to really feel the Vong and their creations in the Force the way they feel everything in our galaxy. So in some ways, even though the Vong don't have Force powers, in some ways the resistance to the normal Force powers that our Jedi have. And the Vong are now beginning the process of attempting to conquer this Star Wars galaxy. So let's get to the Chewie event. So Chewie is with Han and Anakin as they go to a planet to actually make a delivery for Lando. They're doing a favor for him. And when they get there, they realize something's really going wrong with this planet. And they land. They discover that the planet's moon is being sucked into the planet, and it's just to collide with the planet. So, and this is a very small planet, but it doesn't really have much of a government. So Han, Chewie, and Anakin quickly began to organize the evacuation of this planet. But it's clear like this planet's not going to be here much longer. So Anakin kind of goes off on his own to try to discover what's bringing the moon down on the planet and see if they can stop it. He does discover it, and they do destroy it. But at this point, it's too late. The moon is going to hit the planet. During the course of the evacuation, which is super chaotic, and the moon is so close to the planet, it's starting to cause seismic shifts in the planet. As Anakin and Chewie are trying to rescue people, they basically get separated, and then Chewie's able to get Anakin back and basically throw Anakin onto the Falcon as it's trying to take off. But then, quakes and stuff basically knock Chewie away, and basically he is not able to be saved, and there's no way to rescue him. And basically we have this amazing scene in the book as Chewie realizes his fate and kind of accepts it and kind of stares at this moon that's getting ready to crash into the planet, and basically gives out this mighty Wookiee roar that's like, I saved Anakin, I saved my friend's son, I helped evacuate this entire planet. You might be fixing to kill me, moon, but in the end I won, I did good. And then we just lose Chewie. And really the rest of the book, Han is just dealing with this tremendous loss. He blames Anakin for it. And there's also, anybody that knows the story of Han and Chewie, they're so close together that the loss of Chewie completely wrecks Han. And we deal with this a lot through the rest of the book. The Vong and the New Republic are beginning to make contact. The Vong are actually trying to bait the New Republic into attacking, and so they can kind of begin to pick off New Republic forces one by one, while the Vong are kind of building up their forces here. So they kind of want to, destroy small parts of the New Republic fleet as the Vong build up their strength. So then as the Vong are at full strength, the New Republic have already been weakened a lot. We learned throughout this book the Vong have already placed advanced agents in the Star Wars galaxy who've basically been sowing chaos, starting civil wars, the political disputes, everything to kind of spread New Republic sources thin so their New Republic is not unified to face this outside threat from another galaxy. As the Vong begin to kind of spread out, all our characters are with Lando and the little operation he has going on. And they basically track back to where the Vong are, which is on this icy planet. And they basically are, let's try to take the Vong down, because our Jedi begin to like this is a serious threat. They've already had a couple skirmishes with them. This is a lot of danger. We need to do something about this now before it's too late. So I won't get into the exact details, but they basically figure out a way to neutralize this ice planet in a very clever way. But it's clear even through all this stuff that the Vong have a technology that gives them a huge advantage over our Star Wars heroes, and it basically takes trickery for them to win this battle, not skill or technology or even the Force. It's more all about, like, they kind of tricked the Vong. But it's clear the Vong are still a very powerful threat, and it's revealed at the end of this book that like this is really just an advanced party. So even though our heroes kind of defeat this initial Vong group, this is not the main Vong invasion. This is almost like the advanced scouting party. The main army is still coming, and we're kind of faced with our heroes kind of realizing like we don't think we're done with the Vong yet. This is something more serious, and they are trying to figure out how do we rally the New Republic to face this threat. So amazing start to introduce a threat to the Star Wars galaxy and really hook people into reading this new Jedi Order series. As we get this, like the entire basis of this series, introduce a new threat, but also introducing new heroes. So we have our old heroes from the movies, but they're really trying to establish, Jaina, Jason, Anakin, the kins of Han and Leia, and all these new Jedi that Luke have trained, how these are going to be the new heroes that, along with our original heroes from the movies, can maybe try to help save the Star Wars galaxy from this threat that they're facing from the Yuuzhan Vong. So, amazing start to the series. Really love this book a lot. Like I said, did I love all aspects of this book? No. Did I wish Chewie made it? Yes, it's very sad when Chewie dies. But I completely understand why they did it. I think it was honestly needed for the point of this series and this book. So let me know, what did you think about this book, Vector Prime? Have you read it before? Have you read the new Jedi Order series? Are you excited for me to do this project? Let me know. Again, if you have any questions about this series, any future books, just let me know in the comment section below. And as those books come up, I'll be glad to address those questions in my future videos. Like I said, this is going to be a very long project for me, so I'll have a lot of time to talk about the new Jedi Order series over the next year or two. So I hope you'll go on this journey with me, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and may the Force be with you.